Hey guys, welcome back to Trick on the Tube. I hope everyone is doing fine. I hope everyone is staying safe. If you're watching this video 10, 20 years after it first came out, you might be wondering why I'm asking these things. As of now, today, when this video is being filmed and uploaded, the COVID-19 coronavirus has pretty much put the entire world on hold. People are getting sick, non-essential businesses are closed, the economy is completely halted, and worst of all, people are dying. I do hope it'll come to an end sometime soon, and I do genuinely hope that everyone out there is coping as well as they can. I have noticed that self-isolation can be trying on some people. If that's the case for you, don't hesitate to leave a comment. You know, I will reply. I love talking about movies, TV shows, Star Trek, of course, and you know, just basically anything. So again, if you want to leave a comment, I'll reply, and then we can help each other through this difficult time. If you do hear noises, that's baby on the tube playing because she's at home at the moment. There you go. Okay, instead of talking about those terrible events, let us indeed take our minds off them and rather talk about Star Trek. This is my review and Easter eggs video for Star Trek Picard Season 1 Episodes 9 and 10, Et in Arcadia Ego, Parts 1 and 2. I hope that's how you pronounce it. I'm not too good with my Latin. Well, this is it. This is it. This is the end of Star Trek Picard's first season, and what did we all think of it? Well, I think it's fair to say that, generally speaking, these two final episodes were maybe a little underwhelming. Not every plotline got a resolution, not every character got a final scene, and for me personally, I felt like a lot of what was going on in the final episode specifically were conclusions not the things that happened in Picard, but rather in the Next Generation or the Next Generation movies, which was a little odd, maybe. A good friend and fellow content creator, Starfleet Boy, said in a discussion we had about the season finale that Picard as a whole did feel like an epilogue in a lot of ways to the Next Generation story, and I agree. It was almost a conclusion to the Next Generation rather than its own thing. Now, is that bad? I don't know. We'll have to dive more into this when my actual season review comes along. For now, let's really try and just focus on those two last episodes, that two-parter. These were not the episodes I enjoyed the most in the season. I've said it a few times already, the overarching doomsday end of all things plot is not something I'm a fan of. I didn't like it in Discovery, and I didn't like it here. And so naturally, since these two final episodes were very much about that plot, about the androids contacting this ancient race of synthetic beings that will wipe out all organic life as we know it, well, they couldn't be my favorite. Although I will say this, I did expect Part 2 to be much dumber than it actually was. I mean, there were some dumb things, but not as dumb as I thought they would be. And kind of tying back to what I just said earlier, since these two episodes dealt a lot with concluding the Next Generation, they ended up spending a lot less time on the doomsday plot, which, for one, subverted my expectations and kind of increased my enjoyment, I guess. Now, there were some nice character moments, discussions between Picard and Jurati, or Raffi and Rios, smaller moments that were fun, but from a story standpoint, I was really scratching my head there sometimes, and look, I don't want to get into long, extended explanations about why this or that didn't necessarily work for me, but to make things simple, it's things like the way the beacon was being kind of magically constructed felt a little maybe easy. And then there's the magic screwdriver, which again was very convenient. Not to mention the Borg cube crashed in such a way that all of the ex-Bs, all of the ex-Borgs and Seven found themselves very conveniently on the ground floor next to the front door. And I know there were techno-babble explanations for some of the tools that they use, etc., etc. Yeah, I know that most to all of the issues I could potentially be explained away by any fan with a bit of imagination. All I'm saying is many elements felt a little too convenient, almost as if the two final episodes relied very much on narrative shortcuts to get to the conclusions they wanted. That being said, the conclusion they wanted, the conclusion they went with, wasn't bad at all. There was no battle. There were no phases, there were no blasters, there were no lasers, there were no explosions, there was no 20-minute adrenaline rush full of noise and flashing lights. It ultimately ended with diplomacy. Riker, in a very welcome cameo appearance, states that the Federation has claim to the planet, and Picard on his end manages to convince Soji and the other androids that all life is valuable and worth preserving. So not only is it diplomacy, but I guess it is very Star Trek in its message. And then we got that Data moment, which I appreciated for the most part. I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. On one hand, it was very touching, it was beautifully directed, and as many people have said, it served as closure. Finally, to the Data/B4 situation that Nemesis set up. Did it need to be in Star Trek Picard? I don't know. Especially considering new fans or people being introduced to Star Trek with this show probably didn't need to spend so much time on this. Nonetheless, it was an important moment both for Data and Picard. And then the episode finished on a positive note. That was nice. It finished on a hopeful note. It was uplifting. And I really hope they can carry that vibe on all throughout season 2. 7 of 9. Yes, I do have to talk about 7 just a bit because I didn't really like her in these 2 episodes. I mean, I love Jerry Ryan, and I think her performances were great. I especially appreciated the little things like when she held herself very straight with her hands behind her back. That was very 7 of 9. So no complaints there. It's just that her casual disrespect for life was off-putting to me, and almost in pure contradiction to the message that life is so important. I mean, she pushes that body off the ledge with such disdain. It's weird. And then Narissa. She finishes her off with no question or intent to say, I don't know, take her into custody or have her explain her actions before some sort of Federation council or something. I don't know. Casual murder, I suppose, isn't something that I'm kind of used to seeing in Star Trek, or at least I'm not used to seeing it be dismissed so easily. And that's about it. I think it's strange because I was expecting to go on for hours about this. This is the finale to Star Trek Picard. It's 2 episodes, but honestly, I don't have that much to say. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, not every plotline felt resolved. Raffi and her son, for example, what happened to them? Maybe that'll be a Season 2 development. Other plotlines, rather than not being resolved, just kind of popped out of nowhere and had no introduction. In a way they didn't feel earned. I'm talking about Seven and Raffi. They had a moment in the end. And then, of course, some characters just disappeared. Narek, where did he go? In that last episode, he at some point just stopped being on screen altogether, and there's no conclusion to his arc, to his presence, to anything. No resolution whatsoever. I will say, however, that he had his best line from the series in episode 10. I mean, hands down, when he tells Elnor that he very much chooses to live. I love that. That was hilarious. That was great. And there you have it. That's the review. I didn't forget about the Picard synthetic body, by the way. I just have nothing to say about it apart from the fact that I saw it coming. The performances, for the most part, were good. Spiner did a better job in part 2 than part 1. Briones did a good Soji. Not convinced by her suture, but maybe that's because I hate the character so much. Everyone else, no comment. The lighting was good. The directing was good. The music was beautiful. Big thumbs up for Isa Briones singing. I personally have no problems with the visual effects. You know, they are what they are. Sometimes weaker, sometimes stronger. That's just TV. I would have liked to see more variety in the fleet. Yes, but I'm not troubled by it. Again, technology-wise, the things I found a little hard to accept were the magic tool and the tower construction, but that's not on the visual effects department. Those are simply a part of the plot conveniences I addressed earlier. Will Dr. Girardi go on trial for the murder of Bruce Maddox? I wonder. I wonder. Simply put, at the end of the day, the 2-parter for me wasn't terrible, but it wasn't fantastic. It was average, weighed down mostly by its narrative shortcomings. I'm sorry if you were expecting something, bigger. This review seems underwhelming, but I guess it's fitting. The review fits the episode. Alright. We now move on to the Easter eggs and references. I will still be doing the Easter eggs and references episode by episode, so let's begin episode 9. The Voyager theme plays when we see 7 of 9 appear, which is always nice. I love that theme. I also mentioned this earlier. At one point she stands in her very 7 of 9 way. Final reference to Voyager for episode 9, and I know it's a bit of a stretch, but Picard is trying to communicate with Starfleet on a hyper-frequency channel. This could be related to the technology used on the Pathfinder program Starfleet used to contact Voyager over in the Delta Quadrant, because they were communicating via hyper-subspace. The planet on which all of these final events take place is classified as Class M. This has been the way Starfleet has called safe, maybe Earth-type planets since forever. Class M means Minshara class. It's Vulcan. On the planet's surface is a community of androids. We've seen this before in the original series. The planet is defended by giant space flowers. They turn out to be technological orchids, so the explanation is more rational than just a giant flower floating around in space. But the first thing that came to mind was the green hand from the original series, because yes, Star Trek does have a tendency of showing random, very strange things just floating around in space. The weather on the planet is fantastic, and I do make a point of saying this because it was originally described to be riddled with constant electrical storms. That's how they even found it. So yeah, maybe a bit of an inconsistency there. Anyway, we get a reference to Surak when Sutra wants to do her Vulcan mind meld. Surak is the father of Vulcan logic, referenced many times throughout the franchise. Sung also says Sutra has learned how to play the Ka-Thera, which, after doing a little research, seems to me like it's the Vulcan lute. Memory Alpha just calls it the Vulcan lute. The only mention of this name, the Ka-Thera, is on Memory Beta, which is the website that deals with non-canon, or let's say the extended Star Trek universe. I don't know. Maybe this is the first time we get the Vulcan name of the instrument in a show, but yeah, that's what I found. And then there's the mind meld itself. It's not so much an Easter egg, but I did want to talk about it nonetheless. It is being executed by a non-Vulcan, not just a non-Vulcan, but essentially a machine. Sutra is, as the show puts it, a synthetic life form. We've seen Spock initiate mind melds with machines before. The first time I saw this episode, I gotta say, I was surprised Sutra could do this. But at the end of the day, since Spock did it with synthetics, I guess, much like the Riker fleet, with all of the ships that are the same, it doesn't bother me too much. Now, when Sutra does the mind meld and learns all that she can, she drops a fascinating, which is a reference to Spock. Moving away from this mind meld situation, Sung. This is the third Sung family member to not only be played by Brent Spiner himself, but also be something of a mad scientist. The other two were in The Next Generation and Enterprise. This Sung is the son of the one from The Next Generation. We had never heard of him at all up until this point, which is odd, but could almost be a reference to Michael Burnham and Sybok. Side note, it's funny how Data is meant to be the Spock of The Next Generation, and both of these characters have had family members just magically appear throughout the years. Sybok, Burnham, Lore, before God knows how many Sungs. Anyway, we end the Easter eggs for episode 9 with Locutus. One of the ex-Borgs calls Picard that way in reference to his time as a Borg drone during The Next Generation. And Rafi talks reptiloids at one point, which could be a reference to the one they just met recently on Free Cloud, or most likely the Gorn, because every Star Trek show needs itself a good Gorn reference. We now move on to episode 10, and brace yourself, because there's just as much, if not more. And I'm going to start with Voyager again because I love Voyager. Narissa taunts 7 of 9 by reminding her and us all that she was assimilated at 6 years old. This is exactly what happened to her. Those events are further explored in a couple of episodes of Voyager itself. The other thing from Voyager is this game. It's called Kalto, and it's something Tuvok used to love playing against various members of the crew. Next up, when Riker arrives and he starts quoting regulations, the Next Generation theme can be heard. Among other things, he cites the Treaty of Algeron, an agreement reached between the Romulan Star Empire and the United Federation of Planets, first mentioned in The Next Generation. Interesting to note that the treaty is still in effect, even though the Empire is supposedly gone, so maybe it's not completely... I don't know how the politics work. We just got a show about Picard and his little story. And though it involved a universe-ending plot, I will agree that in-universe, not that many characters were involved. So I would really love a Starfleet show about Starfleet itself and the Federation and Romulus being destroyed, and how all of that is being dealt with from I guess a political perspective. I'm intrigued by how all of this has affected the political landscape of the area in which they live in. I'm rambling on, I'm sorry. Where was I? Dr. Girardi. She wants to pull off the Picard maneuver. That's a little battle tactic shown to us for the first time in The Next Generation. The Romulan warbirds are quite new in design and in my opinion look more like planes than anything else, but I guess they are kind of green and some of them kind of have bigger heads in the front, so in some ways they do resemble the warbirds that we've seen before. And I'm pretty sure that this alarm sound featured on board are from The Next Generation as well. Girardi uses yet another hypo spray similar in design to what we've seen throughout Star Trek. And now it's time to get into the bigger stuff. Jean-Luc Picard dies. And then comes back to life, because no one's ever really gone. Okay, this is a thing in Star Trek. I don't want to spoil all of the deaths and revivals of the franchise, but there are two I think that are safe for me to use as examples. Spock dies and comes back. There's a movie called The Search for Spock, which is kind of the biggest spoiler ever, if you think about it. The movie title is the spoiler. And Neelix from Voyager also dies and comes back. The death itself is not really a spoiler because the entire episode is dedicated to his experience and how it possibly challenges his beliefs. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it a common trope, but it does happen in Star Trek. Picard is brought back to life, however, in an unconventional manner. His mind, his consciousness, his soul, dare I say, is transferred into a synthetic body, a golem, as the show calls it. We've already seen this before in The Next Generation, so it can be done by a few people in the Star Trek universe. While dead, Picard is able to talk to, from what I understand, the preserved consciousness of Data. This entire sequence, all of these plot points, this story, however you want to put it, all of this is a reference to Nemesis and how that movie had hinted at Data's return, how that movie ended, etc., etc. We also got a Star Trek Insurrection reference, or rather a nod of the head. Picard tells that bad admiral guy, I think it's Doughty, anyway, he tells that guy that he should be the one to terminate Data, and in this episode, he is the one to do so. As he does that, Data quotes Shakespeare, The Tempest, which is the play both characters can be seen working on in The Next Generation. We also get the song Blue Skies. I guess it's a reference to the time Data sang it in Nemesis, but the song was also used in the opening sequence of Picard. And honestly, if I ever hear Blue Skies again in Star Trek, I will probably be reminded of Picard before Nemesis. I don't know why. I've now come to associate that song with Picard. The show, not the character. We end this with, first, a real-world reference. Riker arrives on a ship called the Zheng-He, or the Zheng-He. I'm not too good with my Mandarin either, but after looking it up, I found it was indeed a fitting name for his ship. Zheng-He was a 15th century Chinese explorer, diplomat, and naval fleet commander. And finally, Narek, in again one of his more interesting moments of the season, explains to our protagonists a bit about the Gan Madan myth. I won't get into the mythology itself, but he does say that the Vulcans arrived on their planet, and that confused me. I thought that the Vulcans had evolved on their planet, but apparently there's actually an original series episode that might dispute that. I'm getting this from Memory Alpha, so research must be done. And that's it. Hot damn, there was a lot to cover. Thank you so much for sitting through all this. Thank you so much for your patience. I do try to get these videos out as soon as possible, but with baby on the tube around all day, it sometimes feels like I'm caught in a hurricane, unable to do anything other than build towers of colorful blocks that she then goes Godzilla on, so hey. Remember to like, subscribe, share with your friends. You can support this channel on Patreon like all of these fantastic people. Stay safe, stay clean, leave a comment, as I said, and most importantly, live long and prosper.